Welcome to Events That Shaped the World, where we examine the moments that changed history. In our second series, The Revolution That Changed Everything, we unpack what happened, why it happened, and how it reshaped politics, economies, and everyday life across the globe. Our fourth episode in this series is called The Chinese Communist Revolution. It provides a summary of the revolution that occurred in the year 1949.
All right, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about a monumental event that completely reshaped the 20th century. You see, the Chinese Communist Revolution, it wasn't just another civil war. No, this was a total transformation of the world's most populous nation. And its shockwaves? We're still feeling them today. So, picture this. It's October 1st, 1949. This one moment. It's the peak. The culmination of decades of just brutal conflict, foreign invasion, and this intense ideological struggle. And what's so important to understand is that this didn't just mark the end of a war. It was signaling the beginning of a whole new global order. It's a huge question, right? I mean, how did a nation this vast go through such a radical and frankly rapid transformation? Well, to even start to wrap our heads around how Mao and the Communist Party pulled this off, we've got to rewind. We have to go back to the start of the 20th century, which was a time of just incredible turmoil for China. So let's set the scene. The situation in China back then, I mean, it wasn't just ripe for change. The country was absolutely desperate for it. This whole period of chaos really set the stage for one of the most significant revolutions in all of human history. Think about it. The old imperial system, a system that had lasted for thousands of years, was just gone. And in its place, a massive power vacuum. You had the whole country being torn apart by competing warlords. And the Chinese people, they were suffering from unbelievable poverty and instability. It was, simply put, a nation in chaos. So this complete collapse of the old way of doing things, it led straight into decades of the country being broken up and just constant violence. But you know, out of all that chaos, two powerful new forces began to rise up. And each one had a completely, radically different vision for what China's future should look like.
And this is where things get really intense. This wasn't just some simple grab for power anymore. This was a battle for the very soul of China, for its entire future.
So on one side, you've got the Nationalists. You might see them called the Kuomintang or KMT. Their goal was to create a modern republic, but they wanted to pretty much keep the existing economic structure. Then, on the other side, you had the Chinese Communist Party, and they weren't just looking for political change. Oh no, they wanted to completely tear down and rebuild society, to lift up the huge peasant class. And right at the center of this epic struggle were these two larger-than-life figures. You have Chiang Kai-shek, who was the head of the internationally recognized government. And then you have Mao Zedong, the charismatic revolutionary leader of the communists. And here's what's so critical to understand. Their bases of power could not have been more different. This quote really nails it. A contest of whale versus elephant. The Nationalists, they were the whale, powerful in the water, which in this case meant the cities. They controlled the government, the industry. But China was overwhelmingly rural. And the communists, they were the elephant, slow and steady, winning over the land itself, the countryside. They got that in a peasant society, real power doesn't come from the cities. It comes from the people who work the land. And that one strategic difference, it would end up being absolutely decisive.
Like, share, comment, and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this to refresh your memories on the events that shaped the world.
Okay, so this brings us to the big question, the one we've all been thinking about. After all that fighting, after a brutal Japanese invasion, after foreign powers got involved, why? Why did the communists win in the end? Well, the answer really comes down to their strategy. The nationalist government was just plagued with corruption, and they totally failed to connect with most of the population. But the communists, they became masters of grassroots mobilization. They went right to the people, to the peasants, and offered them something tangible, land, dignity, and a really powerful nationalist message against the Japanese invaders. They were winning hearts and minds where it counted the most, out in the countryside.
And you can see how well that strategy worked. By 1945, it had paid off big time. The communist influence in these rural areas created this huge base of support that you can see basically surrounded and eventually just swallowed up the cities that the nationalists were holding. You know what the communists did so brilliantly was they tapped into something ancient. Peasant rebellion had been a tradition in China for centuries, this deep-seated anger against landlords and corrupt officials. But the communists gave this old tradition a modern revolutionary twist with their global communist ideology. They weren't just promising a new emperor or a new dynasty, they were promising a whole new world. And that victory, that's what leads us right back to that dramatic moment we started with. By 1949, the war on the mainland is over. A new China, the People's Republic, is born. But here's the thing, the end of the war on the mainland wasn't really the end of the story. Chiang Kai-shek and his nationalists, they retreat to the island of Taiwan, and they set up a rival government. And this is what created the whole two-China situation, a major source of international tension that honestly continues to shape global politics to this very day. Like, share, comment and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this to refresh your memories on the events that shaped the world. And the impact of this revolution just exploded far beyond China's own borders. Suddenly, the most populous country on the planet had joined the communist bloc. This created a huge brand new front in the Cold War.
So people weren't looking at this as just some local event. In the West, especially in the United States, this was seen as an absolutely catastrophic loss. It was viewed as a huge win for the Soviet Union and a fundamental, terrifying shift in the global balance of power. And that fear, it just spread like wildfire through the West. The communist victory in China directly fueled things like the Red Scare and McCarthyism in the US. It kicked off this whole new era of paranoia, investigations, and of course, confrontation. Now we have to look at the legacy, and it's complicated. Despite all the turmoil, the revolution did bring some undeniable progress, especially in areas we'd call human development today. For the first time in modern Chinese history, millions of people had access to basic healthcare and education. Literacy rates just shot up, and those old, rigid social hierarchies were torn down. But, and this is a massive but, that progress came at an absolutely staggering and brutal human cost. Just during the land reforms in the early 1950s, it's estimated that over 1 million people, landlords, people they called counter-revolutionaries, were killed. So you have this profound question that hangs over everything. Decades later, the Communist Party is still in charge. On one hand, the party delivered stability, development, and national strength after a century of what was seen as humiliation. But on the other hand, it did all that through incredibly violent campaigns and tight authoritarian control. And that right there, that's the complex, deeply debated legacy that not just China, but the entire world is still grappling with today. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss what's next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.